ultimately, we want to be moving through the world, which obviously includes sex, in as artistic a way as possible in our work, in our communities. And to do that, our personal practices allow us to cultivate the depth of our hearts, the depth of our essences, the depth of our radiance, the depth of our consciousness, the depth of our love, the depth of our devotion. Part of, obviously becoming an artist of love requires a personal practice. Welcome back to the Embodied Relationship Experience podcast. I am your host, John Wineland. Today, we are going to dive into the topic of sexual artistry. What makes sex artistic? What distinguishes it from monkey sex or just making love or procreating? And as we dive into this topic, I want to both separate, from the masculine expression and from the feminine expression, and then also just some general foundational principles about what takes your sex from pleasure seeking or baby making into a work of art. But before we continue, if you are watching this on YouTube, please smash the like button, subscribe, leave a comment if you like. What do you think about the episode? That really helps us get the content out to more people. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, please leave us a review. Let us know what you think. Same thing with Spotify. If these practices and if these concepts resonated with you and you want more, the Embodied Relationship Experience platform, there's a link below. It's a global community, about 500 practitioners around the world, where we have thousands of hours of content on this stuff, hundreds of practices, personal practices and couple practices. So things that you can do at home, basically setting up a temple, push play, and I'll take you through about a 45-minute to an hour practice. They're all there on the Embodied Relationship Experience platform. It's one of the ways that you can kind of dive in a little deeper into what we're exploring here. All right, let's begin this exploration with a question, which is, what makes any expression artistic? Whether it's as a painter or as a musician or as somebody giving a speech, what are the foundational principles that make something artistic? And in my opinion, there are three of them. The first one is a full commitment. So if you notice, watching your favorite musician on stage, they are completely engrossed in the expression. They are fully committed to the expression. There's no hesitation. There's no doubt. It's just, I'm giving this fully through my body in this moment. And there's a 100% commitment to the expression of art. The second foundational principle is a complete lack of self-consciousness. And this is often hard in sex, but to allow yourself to let go of completely any strategy, any fear of doing it right, any fear of looking bad, and just really allowing yourself to be in that full expression without any sort of ego-driven or identity-driven governors that hold you back, right? Because when we're thinking about how I look, or am I doing this right, or is this the right way, we lose the spontaneity, we lose the full potency of our expression. So being able to allow yourself to let go of how you look in a certain moment, or whether what you're trying to do is the right thing or the wrong thing, and just allowing yourself to be in a bit of a flow state, really. I mean, artistry and flow are deeply connected. In fact, the greatest art is absolute flow state, whether it's, again, a musician on stage or somebody delivering a poem. Any artistry is in flow. So being able to A, be fully committed, B, absolutely let go of how you look, and C, this is the one that is often a little more tricky for people, allowing something greater to move you. So again, going to this example of a musician on stage, somebody playing guitar on stage or singing deeply on stage, you can feel that there's something greater than them moving them. There's something greater than them, singing through the body. Their body is just a vehicle of something deeper. And in lovemaking, that something deeper is often love, but not always. It could be desire. It could be a divine inspiration. It could be God or goddess. It could be any number of greater forces that we allow to move through us. And I'm going to get a little more into detail about how to, what it actually looks like to be, artful in the expression of your sexual desire. But it's really important that you keep these ideas at the forefront. This idea of, are you fully committed, not distracted? Are you able to let go of yourself, get over yourself, let go of yourself? And are you able to allow something deeper than your preferences or your desire to get off or your desire to make them get off and be moved by something greater than yourself in the giving of the art? So before we get into the foundations of sexual artistry, I want to say that the list I'm giving is by no means comprehensive. This is just, my version of what I have seen over the years, the ways that I've been trained, the ways that I've practiced, what I've seen in, countless workshops that I've led. And what I notice is that there are a few specific tenets that are always, present in the, deepest expression of sexual art. The first is the principle of moving slowly rather than fast. And, especially in the beginning, when we move slow, when we are able to feel the moment and move from a deeper part of ourselves, really moving from the center column, moving from the heart, moving from the belly. And when we move slow, we're able to feel our partners and feel the moment in a much deeper way. And when you think about what makes art art, it's often in the really subtle details. I love to play guitar. And so one of the things that makes great guitarists artists is not just that they can play regular chords, but that they know how to manipulate chords in the subtle. They know how to, what they would call a hammer, like lift a pinky up or down, or, hit a string in a certain way. And so as we move slowly and we explore ourselves and our partners and the moment and the connection slower, especially at the beginning, we're able to feel those nuances. We have a much greater control over our nervous system. And maintaining control over our nervous system is a key principle in sexual artistry. Now, of course, during extreme lovemaking, there will be times when you're moving fast, or you're moving powerfully, or you're moving with, deep intent. But being able to titrate that, to be able to come back to slowness, to be able to come back to sort of starting over or resetting your nervous systems back into synchronicity, being able to do that is part of what will extend the lovemaking, which is one of the key principles. Being able to, doesn't have to be an hour-long session. It can be a 5-minute session that's incredibly artful. However, being able to move from, moving very powerfully and quickly in sex to being able to kind of slow it down and feel more is an incredibly potent way to maintain this kind of artistic expression. Not to mention, it helps keep a deep connection. So the next tenet of sexual artistry is deep rather than shallow. So when we're able to move slow, when we're able to have control over our own nervous system, this is especially true for the masculine partner in sex. And when we're able to, be with all of the energy that's being generated, we can feel deeper. Right? We can feel the deeper part of our partner. And so we don't get locked into the superficial ways that we've learned about sex, especially with men. Most men learn about sex in this stimulate, fantasize, ejaculate sort of way. It's very fast. And so retraining our nervous systems to be able to stay with the micro movements, flutters of your partner, especially, your feminine partner, to be able to feel her very deeply requires you to both be moving in a pace that your nervous system can stay with so you don't, finish too early. But it also allows you to feel deeper into her. So you're not just focusing on a part of her body that is super sexy, or a part of her body that turns you on, or a part of his body that turns you on. You're focusing on the deeper parts of them, right? The inner radiance of your feminine partner, or the inner depth of your masculine partner. And when we're able to feel each other deeply, we're able to express from deeper parts of ourselves. So if I was an art historian for a long time, and all of my favorite art movements, all of my favorite artists weren't just spectacular visually, right? They were spectacular in the content, right? They were always sort of working on a deeper message. They were always sort of delivering a deep message wrapped in this visually stunning piece. And it's really the same in lovemaking, right? We want to be delivering the deeper message through the body, right? It's not just about getting off. I mean, of course it could be, but we're talking about artistic sex here, not just kind of, quickies or monkey sex. And so through our bodies, in the moments we're making love, what is the deeper truth that's trying to come through? What is the deeper experience? Is that deeper truth one of lifelong devotion? Is that deeper truth one of claiming, right? You're mine, right? Is a deeper truth. And maybe that deeper truth is something around surrendering open to the moment and surrendering open to love. So as we are bringing depth into our lovemaking, as we're touching depth, as we're feeling depth in another, as we're bringing depth through the moment, right? Through the, incredibly beautiful, pleasurable experience of making love, the art deepens, right? And that's one of the most important aspects to life-changing, nervous system healing, soul expanding sex. It should go without saying that your connection to your own depth in those moments, and not just the pleasure that you're experiencing or the pleasure your partner's experiencing, is a huge piece of this deep rather than shallow principle. So it starts with, are you feeling your heart deeply? Are you feeling the center of your body deeply? For a woman, it's, are you feeling your womb? Are you feeling your cervix? Are you feeling the deeper parts of your yoni? For a man, it's, are you feeling that space below your navel? Are you feeling the depth of your heart, right? And is your desire simply one of pleasure, or is your desire one of a deeper human and or spiritual experience? And so the more that we can stay connected to those parts of ourselves as artists, right? And part of becoming an artist of love, part of becoming a sexual artist is having your own personal practice that allows you to feel deeper into yourself, right? So that you're moving, ultimately we want to be moving through the world, which obviously includes sex, in as artistic a way as possible in our work, in our communities, right? And to do that, our personal practices allow us to cultivate the depth of our hearts, the depth of our essences, the depth of our radiance, the depth of our consciousness, the depth of our love, the depth of our devotion. And so part of, obviously becoming an artist of love requires a personal practice, requires, just like any great artist would have to practice, like let's say you're in a band, right? and you're playing with other people, and there's this sort of beautiful flow that's happening in a band. But to get to that place of being, a great piano player in a band, or a drummer or guitarist, right? There's thousands and thousands, 10,000 hours, hopefully, of personal practice that allowed you to cultivate that capacity. So, I didn't mention this at the beginning, but it really should go without saying that, this is part of the reason why we practice, right? These are the practices that we do in workshops. These are the practices that we have on the Embodied Relationship Experience platform, right? The personal practice that you have to cultivate in your own body to feel yourself and the moment deeper. Those are the really important aspects that have to come first so that you can deliver the greatest art, in lovemaking, so that you can, feel your partner's hip or inner thigh or heart open just a tiny bit more, right? As you enter them a little bit more, right? And being able to have that sort of sensitivity of depth, rather than just focusing on how they look or whatever sound they're making. Not that those things aren't beautiful and important part of it, but we don't want to stop there, right? We don't want to stop there. That's just, shallow, right? We want to be able to both feel the deepest parts of ourselves, and we want to be able to feel the deepest parts of them. And so an interesting practice would be, for those of you who want to start taking some of this on in your partnerships, an interesting practice would be the next time you do make love, see if you can just tap without talking about it, without, making a big deal out of it, seeing if you can really tap the deeper parts of you, feeling the deeper parts of them. So there's this sort of surface level experience happening during sex, but there's also this deeper energetic experience that we often take for granted, or we often think is just a byproduct of sex, but actually it's the driver of the deepest, most artful sex. And we can start to train ourselves to become really sensitive to how the surface of our partner's bodies touch a deeper part of them. And as we do that, our lovemaking experience becomes incredibly potent and juicy. The third tenet of sexual artistry is a wide range of expression. And so we all know that if you go to, again, I'm going to use music because it's such a beautiful analogy, but we love our singers, we love our artists to have range. If they just have the same tone and the same kind of beat and the same sort of melody, always, it gets boring, right? It gets dull. But the greatest artists have an incredible range from, rocking the house down to making people weep in a ballad, right? And so it's the same in artful lovemaking, right? Our capacity to go from incredibly tender and deep and heart open, almost weeping, to being, sort of brutally primal and hungry, right? And our capacity to have a full range of expression during lovemaking leads to a much more artful lovemaking. Right? One of the things that happens in sex is that people get into comfort zones, right? There's a certain go-to strategy for making love, for getting each other off, for giving your partner pleasure, right? And nothing wrong with those things, but they start to diminish. Just like a great painter that paints the same kind of art all the time. Like if Picasso was just in his blue period for his entire career, it wouldn't have been much of a career, right? So his capacity to learn the expression, right? The deeper expression of, say, Cubism, for example, allowed his art to completely explode into a life-changing experience for many people. And it's the same with us as humans. We have to move out of this comfort zone that we constantly do, and we have to try different expressions, different sounds, a really, dark energy, light energy, everything from, transmitting angelic love through your eyes and through the front of your body into your partner, right? Like it's the texture of you are so loved. God loves you. You're perfect, right? It's this really beautiful light energy to the darker spectrums of energy, right? Which is, I'm going to eat your heart. I'm going to ravish you into dust. And being able to have a full range of energetic textures is incredibly artful and enlivening and just sexy as fuck, right? So being able to have a wide range of expression and to be able to use everything, right? Facial expressions, different sounds, certain kinds of language, right? I mean, dirty talk is a perfect example of being able to take your partner someplace with the use of language while their body is wide open, right? So it always surprises me how few people actually use language. Right? There's a certain poetry to dirty talk that is possible, right? And it requires us to, again, not worry about doing it wrong, not worry about saying the wrong thing. It requires us to let go of having it perfect and just really allowing the moment to bring something through, right? And again, our capacity to play in the ultra light realms, to the ultra dark realms, to everything in between is incredibly important. So expression, right? Being able to have a wide range of expression, take yourself out of your comfort zone so that you can always have something fresh and new. And it's not just different positions, and although those are great, right? Trying different positions, different kind of moments, and it's not simply role playing. Although that's fun as well, right? Role playing is a perfect example of bringing artistry into lovemaking, right? In the Dom sub world, there's agreements that are being made, and both people are agreeing to go into this kind of artistic expression of command, of dominant and submissive, of commanding and surrender. Role playing is another way to work with expression, but it's not just that. We're talking about being able to bring textures of love, whether those textures of love, are intense, whether those textures of love are, part of nature, whether those textures of love flow like water, whether those textures of love are, like the ocean, or as wide as the sky, or as powerful as a volcano, or as sort of grounded and sturdy as an oak, right? Being able to allow our bodies to take the shape of different, it's not just archetypes, although you could call it that, but textures, right? Textures of expression. Those are incredibly important and powerful ways of bringing artistry to love. There is a certain kind of risk-taking required in creativity, right? So to be creative in your lovemaking requires you to take some risks. Let's try this. Let's go into this sort of scene. Let's try, hanging you upside down from the ceiling, while I'm dressed as, Sir Lancelot. I mean, you can, go any direction you want to go in. But it requires that there's this sort of commitment to take risks in creativity. And what I'll often see in partners, right, that kind of get stuck in this, rhythm of homogeneity, right, of sameness, is that they just kind of tend to rely on the same sort of approach to lovemaking because it's worked, right? Because she gets off, because he gets off, and then we can go to bed and, get up and take care of the kids tomorrow and go to work and all of that, right? It's a way to fit love making into our lives rather than pull lovemaking out of our lives and treat it as something that requires really deep attention and creative thought and practice, right? Practicing, this is what we do in workshops all the time, right? Is to practice how to bring these things into off the mat, in a workshop and into your life, right? At home with your partner. Being able to get creative in risks and set up scenes and containers that take lovemaking out of the mundane and into the ritualistic and artistic does require that you've, got some, you're some boldness and you're willing to ask for things and get things wrong and make mistakes and not necessarily, hit it out of the park every time. A really great example I see in this, and this is such a lost opportunity, right? I have a lot of friends who are trying to get pregnant and who have been trying to get pregnant for a while. And what inevitably happens is that the lovemaking required to make a baby becomes this kind of chore, right? Where they're like, okay, it's Wednesday, I'm ovulating, we'll meet in the bedroom at 8:00, right? And you can imagine there's not a lot of fucking juice there. There's not a lot of, it becomes more of a chore than an artistic expression that is bringing a life or possibly bringing a life into the world. So for example, there could be, fertility rituals that are, created as scenes. There could be, any number of role playing and texture playing. There could be any number of expressions of desire, right? Not just desire to get pregnant, but the desire of your womb to be filled, or the desire for me to plant my seed into you, right? There's so much deeper that couples can go, especially in that instance, right? And I rarely see it. So I don't know, if you're one of those people who are trying to get pregnant, I want to challenge you to make that practice, right? To make it a practice that every month can be filled with more and more creativity. Maybe, you're a maiden, tied to a pole that, is getting impregnated by the chief of the tribe. Or maybe there is this sort of ritual where you're coming together as ancient lovers to create a baby that changes the world. Or there's any number of ways to approach it that are far more interesting and far sexier and far more creative than, hey, I'm ovulating, let's get it on. And this leads me to the final tenet that I want to lay out as important in sexual artistry. And that is meticulousness and creativity in the space. So this, if you see a great performer on stage, whether it's Prince or Taylor Swift or Bruce Springsteen, whatever floats your boat, right? They're not just out there. Most of them are not just out there playing their music. They've created, I'm a big fan of U2, and over the years, U2 has had these incredibly artistic stage productions, right? And so there are numerous ways that you could create containers and you can create scenes, or you can, fill your room with candles or certain textiles or scents. There's ways of dressing, right? There's ways of dressing that bring artistry, to a container, to a moment. And so being willing to bring your creative flair to setting up the container, which includes everything from music to, like I said, scents and textiles and textures and toys and ropes and all of these things, right? There are ways to play with this that deepen the act and make the act more artful. So I always like to challenge, here's a challenge I like to give to couples, which is imagine that your bedroom, right, is a temple of love, right? does it look like that? Right? If you were going to rate your temple of love on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being, it's filled with, velvet curtains, and there's beautiful candles and flowers and sheepskin and, a fireplace or whatever else is there. Have you created a bedroom that literally oozes the juice of deep love and deep practice and deep devotion, right? Or are there kitty toys, on the bed, and, everything's kind of just, kind of strewn together, or it's very minimal, or there's not a lot of, powerful symbolism in the room. So it's something that I think most couples can improve on, most that I coach, right? And this is one of the areas I start. It's like, all right, let's look at your bedroom. If I walked into your bedroom, would I think deep love Godfuck? Or would I think like, baby is, throwing up on the, on the comforter and it hasn't been cleaned yet? So really being able to take that and, look, I know it's very hard as new parents to keep this up, but often it's not as hard as we think, right? Becoming an artist just requires us to start to step into our creative body and to set the intention, which is really important, to set the intention of, I'm going to make my sex, I'm going to make our sex a work of art. Just that intention alone will open up hundreds of new possibilities of ways to do that. So before I move on to different ways the masculine can bring artistic creativity and different ways the feminine can bring artistic creativity, I want to just state what this does, right? To be able to deepen your sex, to be able to create more art in your sex, unlocks a depth of love that is often missing when we just fall into habitual lovemaking. And it's not just, many people consider sex just kind of a byproduct of love. That's a nice byproduct, obviously, right? It's just, and it's something that's just a nice addition to life. They don't actually see it as a portal to an incredibly satisfying and deep way of relating. One that can be is so nourishing and so healing and so life-affirming. And what tends to happen, what I notice in people after doing this for over 15 years now, what I notice is the places in their sex life that are not fully expressed are the same places in the world that are not fully expressed. So as you deepen in an artist of love, as you learn to bring more textures of yourself, as you learn to be more meticulous and creative, as you learn to take risks and express yourself more fully, as you learn to do all of these things, you actually start to show up in the world as a more expressed, creative, deeper human. It's amazing the reflection that sex has in the, outer world, outside of the bedroom or outside of the temple. So you, in doing this work and making this commitment to becoming a more artful lover, you are both unlocking parts of yourself and parts of your partner that the world is often craving, but you're also allowing for a deeper nutrient of love to feed your relationship. And this is going to feed, especially for parents, right? This is going to feed you as parents. This is going to feed you as friends. This is going to, give you nutrients that make you a happier and more fulfilled human being in the world. This is going to impact your work and your presence and your capacity as a leader and your capacity to give your gifts in the world. So this is not just, art for the sake of art. This is really art for the sake of you tuning into what's possible through your sex that will make you a much deeper and much more complete human being. So the analogy I like to use is food, right? And sex can either be junk food or it can be deeply nutritious, healing food for you, for your soul, for your body, for your heart. So everything that we're talking about here is taking sex out of the junk food realm. And you'd be surprised how much I see this even with couples who've been together a long time, and into the realm of a deeply nourishing, deeply healing experience. All right. So now let's talk a little bit about the difference between what it means to be an artist of love as a masculine practitioner versus what it means to be an artist of love as a feminine practitioner. And, there are different things that the feminine craves and that the masculine craves. And this is, not necessarily gender specific, although it tends to fall along gender lines a lot. But what I notice is that there are certain things that the feminine heart needs and the feminine body needs, and that the feminine body responds to as artistic expressions. So as a masculine practitioner, one of the ways that you can bring your artistry is to bring your awareness of time and space, right? Bringing your awareness of exactly where you are, where the lovemaking is in the moment, what's the pace of it? What else is around, right? Are you about ready to knock a glass off the counter? Is she about ready to fall off the bed? Where are the kids? Are the kids awake, or might they wake up? Just being able to own the space that you guys are in and being able to own how things are moving in that space. It's a really important piece for her nervous system. So when you think about artistry from a masculine perspective, what it means is you're allowing her nervous system to let go, and you're bringing through your expression, through your awareness, through your presence, through your depth, through your groundedness, you're bringing your nervous system as a gift to allow her nervous system to let go of the burdens of life, to let go of the burdens of needing to know what to do, of leading herself sexually, of leading you sexually. You really want to be able to be so tapped into your own body and nervous system and so aware of the space you're in that her nervous system can completely relax. And so part of the ways that you do that is by owning time and space, meaning you might be the one to set up the temple. You might be the one to suggest the date. You might be the one to, kind of feel into what's needed for this to be a deep expression of art, what music is needed for it to be a deep expression of art. How is the room well lit, or is it dark? What else might be there? Are there certain toys or certain, accoutrement you want to bring to the lovemaking, right? And your capacity to know and feel what might deepen the experience is a really important part of your artistry in making love. Now, this also includes your capacity, again, to be fully expressed from light to dark. And as a masculine practitioner, being able to bring the primal, the domineering, the commanding, the penetrating, what else can we put it? Even the, sacredly defiling part of you to her, actually, and make her feel safe in it. That's the key, right? Like your capacity to bring these darker spectrums juxtaposed against the deep love and devotion you have for her in your heart, even if it's not a relationship, even if it's, a fling or a hookup, right? Your capacity to bring love into that moment and also bring the darker textures of sexual expression is incredibly nourishing and potent for most sexual partners. Not all. Some women have some trauma around those things, and being sensitive to that is incredibly important. But most women that I've worked with really need the full range of spectrum. Like if it's just all dark and intense all the time, then there's a part of her that will feel malnourished. If it's just light and loving all the time, there's definitely a part of her that will feel malnourished. And so part of your capacity as an artist of love is to be able to bring the full spectrum, to be able to own the time and space moment, to be able to kind of, help lead the experience, and so that she doesn't have to, right? So that she doesn't have to. Now, that doesn't mean that you're not super sensitive to everything that's moving through her. That doesn't mean that your heart's not deeply connected to hers as you traverse these things. What it means is that you're aware of everything that's happening, what would liberate more love in her body, what would liberate more pleasure in her body, what movement, if you moved her finger an inch this way, or you stroked her arm, or you put your hand on her throat or her heart, or moved her legs or hips in a certain way, would that allow more energy to move through her? So part of masculine artistry and sex is a sensitivity, right? And being able to, this goes back to what I started with about moving slow and feeling deep. Right? If you're moving slow and feeling deep, you can actually feel what will liberate, right? Because art is about liberation, right? What will liberate more love in her body, what will liberate more pleasure in her body, what will liberate more depth in her body. And your capacity to do that as a masculine practitioner is your capacity as an artist. So your value as a masculine sexual artist will be in being able to take her deeper than she can take herself. Now, women have become so capable in the depth of meditation and the depth of practice, in the depth of love and devotion, right? Oftentimes women are way ahead of men in a lot of relational realms, right? Largely because they've, had 100,000 years of practicing it, while men have been doing other things, warring, accumulating, dominating, all that shit. So your capacity to take her deeper than she can take herself is an incredibly valuable piece of this. And what that might mean will vary from moment to moment, from session to session, right? Usually these areas of deep love, devotion, sensitivity, of knowing her body as well or better than she does in those moments, right? Now, you have to be very sensitive to really know that, and you have to pay attention, but your capacity to, like I said, move her hips or say just the right thing that, opens her heart or turns her on or helps her, surrender control in a certain way to you, being able to do those things in a moment-to-moment basis is, particularly tricky, but incredibly satisfying to both you and her. And your capacity to take her deeper into her heart by seeing deeper into her heart, by feeling maybe deeper into her heart than she's ever felt, and then reflecting that to her through your eyes, through your breath, through your open-heartedness, through your devotion, through your ravishment, through your defilement, through your dominance of, through your submission to. All of those things, right, are part of the masculine artistry of love. And the final piece I wanted to touch on here as an artist is, and I mentioned this a little bit before, but it's this capacity to make her feel safe in exploring the darker areas of her heart, right? The part of her that wants to surrender, the part of her that wants to be dominated, the part of her that wants to be taken or ravished or destroyed by love, right? To make her feel safe in those darker places is an incredibly important piece of this work. And it really relies on all the things I've been talking about so far, about being able to be in touch with your own nervous system, to be in control of your own nervous system, to not get so turned on so quickly that you ejaculate super fast, to be able to pace yourself, to be able to feel her, to be able to express, all the aspects of your love, right, for her. And then be able to feel when there's a moment or a portal that opens up where you guys can go into sexual creativity in a very deep and, juicy way. So your capacity to really master your own practice will absolutely allow her to trust your taking her into a deeper place than she might be able to take herself. So what is feminine artistry in lovemaking? Well, if the masculine is in charge of time and space, let's call it the structure of the moment, right? Or the depth. The masculine's also responsible for the depth of the moment and making sure that things don't get superficial or, just hung up on orgasm or, drifting into kind of a comfortable numbness, right? The masculine is going to be constantly trying to feel for a deeper layer and a deeper layer and a deeper layer. Then the feminine gift, let's call it, in artistic lovemaking is the expression of energy, is filling the moment with energy, filling the moment with sound and pleasure and movement and liberation of love, right? The feminine is the master of energy, right? And so her capacity to be able to relax open into pleasure, love, and devotion and be the expression, to be the sun of pleasure, to be the nuclear reactor, the volcano of love and devotion in a moment, that is the gift, the feminine artistic gift in sex. And so your capacity to be able to express, right, to allow these things to bubble up from the base of you, right, from your perineum, your cervix, your womb, and out the heart and out the body is the feminine gift and the feminine art. And to do so in a way that is what my teacher would call responsive, right? To be responsive to the moment. So as he is trying to, be a master of time and space and really feel you deeply and create a depth of connection and expression, right? As he's doing that, your responsiveness to what feels really good and what doesn't is incredibly important, right? And how artfully you can respond to what is working and feeling good and what isn't, right? Those are both incredibly important pieces of artistic expression. So being able to, example I've used before is oral sex, right? And to be able to both amplify what feels good in your body and then find ways to, artistically express, no, not like that, right? Rather than directing him, right? Is artful in polarity. Now, of course, if something's happening that you don't like and you want something else, being able to express it in a way that doesn't put you in the masculine pole is a very artful thing, right? So to be able to say something like, rather than say, do it this way, which is directive, right? It's fine as long as you realize that that's putting you in the masculine. So when you say, do it this way or do it that way, you are taking the masculine pole. Just know you're doing that and know that it's going to have an impact on the energetic flow that's been building in a polarized sexual moment. Rather, you might try making a sound that lets him know, not like that, right? And then let's say he moves just a little bit to the right and it feels good, making another sound that lets him know, like, yes, just like that, right? And so your responsiveness to how he's doing, and you're actually leading him, directing him with your energy, right? This is a thing. It's not about the man leading or being in charge of it. It's you're actually leading him with your responsiveness. And that art is definitely an art, right? To be able to learn how to, without losing the expression of your pleasure, the expression of your love, to be able to direct him through your responsiveness is incredibly beautiful and artful. And it minimizes those moments of disconnection that I often see happen in sex where couples will kind of lose all of the mojo, because the man feels directed and then he kind of loses his, he thought he was on the right track. You're saying, no, this way. And then he has to kind of rethink and regather himself. So a more artful way of doing that is in your responsiveness. And that also includes, offering possibilities, right? Offering possibilities. Oh, what if we tried it like this? You're still not directing. You're just offering possibilities. You're letting your desire and your desire to lead, like, ooh, what if we tried it with me on top? Or what if we tried it with me on my belly? Or what if or what I would love is to feel you from behind. Or what I would love is to be able to feel you looking deeply into my eyes, right? And those kinds of things are more artful ways of responding to what your body wants than just kind of jumping in and taking direction. This is often a controversial topic, so I understand if it might ruffle some feathers, but what I'm really trying to do is to give you ways of communicating that will sustain the moment of connection and not disrupt it, right? The opposite, like what I also like to teach men to do, is how to command her body open using your voice, right? So this might look like something like, open your legs, show me your throat, right? Give me your tongue. Right? You are using language to direct her body into more openness, right? Open your hips for me. Open your legs for me. Right? Those kinds of things. Look at me. Look in my eyes, right? Those are ways that the masculine can use the art of command to direct her body open. And obviously, so let's say he's doing that, just to make this a little more concrete. Let's say he's doing that. Let's say he's kind of commanding your body open, move this way, open this way, give me this, give me that. And something doesn't feel good, right? To be able to express that in the moment artfully is great information for him, right? Because most women that I work with, this is not true for all women, of course, but most women that I work with love to be commanded artfully in sex. And of course, this can switch. Anything we're talking about here can switch, where she can take the masculine pull and he can be in the feminine, and she can command his body open and he can be responsive, right? So it's really important that we know that these are not necessarily gender roles that we have to play in, but that these are energetic gifts that all of us have that we get to work with in the way that feels best. Another area where the feminine is in charge of the artistic expression is in the art of invitation. And this is something that we work on a lot in workshops, of what it means to make your whole body an invitation to be filled, right? To be filled with consciousness, to be filled physically, to be filled with love, to be filled with depth. And so the masculine art is about filling her, and the feminine art is about receiving him. And so making your body an invitation, making your inner thighs an invitation, for example, making your eyes an invitation, making your heart an invitation, your shoulders an invitation, your yoni an invitation, your belly an invitation, your whole body an invitation to be filled, is incredibly artful. And there are so many different ways to do that. I won't get into a lot of them here, but just feel what that's like to be an invitation. It requires the front of you to open, right, and receive. Kind of like, nature is great in this ways, like a flower opening. Like a flower opening. So from the center of your body, a flower opening, and inviting your lover into that is a big piece of the feminine art. Now, of course, the masculine art is going to be to fill that artfully, to penetrate it with depth and love and consciousness. And so to be able to fill her from the center column is the masculine art. To be able to invite him from the center of your body is the feminine art. And the textures of invitation could be everything, could be the range of energy from, sacred slut to devotional, again, going back to the fertility example I love, invitation to be impregnated, right? To make your whole body an invitation to be filled with his seed. That's an incredibly sexy way to do that practice. And so becoming an artist of invitation is part of the feminine art. And what you are doing when you're inviting him into deeper and deeper parts of your body and your heart and your essence is your calling for more of his depth. The deeper you invite him into you, and I'm not just saying physically, right? I'm talking about the emotional chambers of your heart and the spiritual chambers of your heart and the depth of love, the essence of love that you are. As you're inviting him deeper into that, he has to get more solid. He has to get more full. He has to deepen in his practice, in his presence. And so a great way to think about sexual artistry is that it's about maximum fullness. It's about maximum fullness of expression. It's about maximum fullness of penetration. It's about maximum fullness of feeling. It's about maximum fullness of being so tuned in that every cell is orgasmic, as opposed to just a certain part of your body, right? And as artists of love, and as you start to deepen in these practices and get better and better, what you'll notice is that sex is not just about genitals anymore, right? It'll become way more about every cell. It'll be about your being. It's like a whole body. Your whole body is wet. Your whole body, his whole body is hard, right? And there's a certain sort of, David Data used to call it, he has this heart on, right? That is his whole body is alive as love, and your whole body is alive as love. And so when we're thinking about artistry, we're really thinking about aliveness. We're thinking about maximizing the aliveness in our bodies and becoming more and more creative and bold and expressed in that aliveness, which is, one of the keys to deep fulfillment. We've always thought about sex as kind of this, or at least in the, the last century or two, we've really thought about sex in this kind of base nature, right? It's about, it's about filling a hunger or filling a desire. But really, sex is about creating aliveness. Sex is about making us more alive and available for the world. And part of becoming artists of love is that we are literally making ourselves and our partner more alive as love and more available to liberate love in the world. But before we continue, if you are watching this on YouTube, please smash the like button, subscribe, leave a comment if you like. What do you think about the episode? That really helps us get the content out to more people. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, please leave us a review. Let us know what you think. Same thing with Spotify. Okay, so if these practices and if these concepts resonated with you and you want more, the Embodied Relationship Experience platform, there's a link below. It's a global community, about 500 practitioners around the world, where we have thousands of hours of content on this stuff, hundreds of practices, personal practices and couple practices. So things that you can do at home, basically setting up a temple, push play, and I'll take you through about a 45-minute to an hour practice. They're all there on the Embodied Relationship Experience platform. It's one of the ways that you can kind of dive in a little deeper into what we're exploring here. And I hope this episode gave you a lot to think about. I hope it gave you a lot to, commit to and look forward to, hopefully look forward to. And we'll see you next time.